Okay, so you've learned the rules, you've practiced a few games perhaps, and you're beginning to enjoy chess. Well, now let me show you a few tips that will make you a bit stronger and hopefully will help you win a few of those games that you'll play in the near future. Here we see a king and a queen, and it's white to move. What an experienced player would see immediately is that these two pieces are both within range of the knight. And so if we make this move, knight d6 check, what happens is the knight is attacking the king and the queen at the same time. Remember that the king cannot be given up. So the king has to be saved, even at the cost of a whole queen. And what has happened here? By using this trick of attacking two pieces at the same time, known as a fork, white has won a piece of 9 points. This mechanism also works when a knight attacks a rook and a bishop at the same time, or a queen and a rook at the same time. It's always called a fork, but the most extreme example is the king, of course. The next one, we notice here that the queen and the king are on the same long diagonal. They're on the same diagonal, and this immediately suggests a possibility to put the bishop on that same diagonal. Now we can say that the black queen is pinned. So white is pinning the black queen against the black king, because the black queen cannot move away, because then white would attack the black king, and the black king, well, black can't afford to lose that, so he does his best, which is to take the bishop with his queen, and white captures. But what has happened in this pin? We have exchanged a piece of 3 pawns for a piece of 9 pawns, a gain of 6. So an idea you should be well aware of, the pin, that is putting your bishop on the same diagonal as two enemy pieces, will usually result in some gain. The third one is slightly different. This is called an X-ray, because after white's next move, both the king and the rook are on the same file, and this is called an X-ray because it seems that the white rook is seeing through the black king. So black is forced to move his king, and then white wins the rook. So white has gained 5 pawns in this one transaction. So let's see that again. What's the clue you should look for? When the opponent has two pieces along the same file or along the same rank, this is always an option for a rook. But remember, this would not work if the black king and rook were in the opposite, had swapped their positions, because then the black rook would attack the white rook. So here it's very important that what is seen is that this X-ray works because the black king is in front. Here we are into a position where black has all his king's escape ranks on the escape squares on the 7th rank occupied by pawns, which means all his escape routes are only along the 8th rank. Well, but what happens if the rook gives a check along the 8th rank? Well, the effect is checkmate, because the king's escape routes are all blocked by his own pawns, and so there is no piece left to block the check, and therefore it is checkmate. A very, very typical mechanism, and whenever you see a king with its escape route hemmed in, just keep an eye out for this possibility. You may not have a piece ready to give this check, but keep an eye out for this possibility. Maybe within a move or two, you can bring some piece, a queen or a rook, to the last rank, and if your opponent isn't alert, that's a free point. And finally, we are going to touch something called a double attack. This is very simple. It's the same principle as a knight going in and attacking two pieces at the same time. The queen goes to a square where it attacks both the rook and the king. And This is very likely with the queen because it's such a powerful piece that from so many squares it's able to cover so many other squares that the number of combinations are huge. So generally when black has a rook that's loose, he should try to defend it with a pawn or keep it nearby his king. And here we see one consequence of the rook being too far away, that the queen was able to attack both of them at the same time. Black will have to move his king. And then white captures the rook and gains 5 pawns. So these are some typical ideas that you should be aware of. They're slightly complex, but nonetheless, look out for them. You might get a quick point every now and then, and we all know how wonderful that feels.